anything new other than coming to rehabilitate and, of course, replace the track materials and then, of course, the sleepers, and then bring in new ballast to put there. As far as the environment is concerned, there is no much challenge for the contractors to address.
Well, you know, for some, maybe this is the first time they get to hear that, well, you have done a whole lot concerning the rail system. Perhaps we should talk about patronage. How is the patronage like? Government officials like yourself and other colleagues of yours, how often do they use the rail lines, perhaps maybe coming from the north to Lagos, so that, well, it can encourage other Nigerians to take to the rails?
Of course, the patronage is very high, as you can see. I mean, in Lagos in particular, you see how passengers are excited. From Kano, passengers are excited. From Kaduna, from Mina. I mean, all across the Western line that has now been on stream. There is serious excitement and interest by the public. And the number of passengers increasing by the day. And as a result of that, we are faced with the challenge of really going to source for additional trains, coaches, in particular, and of course wagons for the carriage of goods.
Whereas I think, Chairman, sorry, I want to stay on that. I'm talking about maybe politicians, ministers like yourself. Do they ride on such trains? For instance, you have an assignment here in Lagos and you come in a train?
I beg your pardon?
Well, the patronage this time is not from the ordinary Nigerians. I'm asking about politicians and those in government. How much of patronage do they also give to this rail system that you have brought back?
Well, the services rendered are very, very indiscriminatory. There is no discrimination. Whoever wants to use the rail can use it, irrespective of your position. Whether you are a governor, you are a minister, you are a local government chairman, you are a senator, you are a member of the House of Representatives, you are a member of the state legislature, you are a businessman, you are a journalist like yourself, you are free to go and use the train. There is no discrimination, and people are using it. Civil servants and others.
Honorable Minister, let's make it direct. Just picking up where my colleague left off, have you used any of these trains to travel?
Of course I have.
Maybe you did not hear me. I was asking if you have used any of the trains to travel to any part of the country.
I said, of course I have used the train. I've entered the train from Lagos to Mina. I've entered the train from Ilorin to Ofa. I have used it. I've entered it in Kaduna. So I've been using it.
In your opinion, is it standard, or do you think there's still more to be done?
This is the narrow gauge line, of course the old line. The idea of rehabilitating it is to bring back the trains on track. While that is being done, we're developing the modern line, the standard gauge. So we keep on improving by the day. The speed naturally is not high because of the gauge of the track. The highest speed will be 70 kilometers per hour on the existing narrow gauge. But for the standard gauge that we are developing, the average speed is 150 kilometers up to 170 kilometers per hour. So by next year, when you enter the train from Abuja to Kaduna, it can run a speed of 150 up to 170 kilometers per hour. Detour to the Lagos-Ibadan when it is eventually completed, and the Itape-Ajakuta-Warri Red Line.
All right. I know you talked about getting the private sector in at a later date, but with the ones that have been completed in terms of the management, what role is the private sector playing in those ones?
Yeah, we are going to outsource a number of things in the services now. For example, we are going to partner with the private sector, and indeed an advert has been made for the appointment of transaction advisor who is going to anchor this. The private sector is going to be invited to acquire rolling stock, additional locomotives, additional coaches, additional wagons for them to be operating in partnership with the Nigerian Railway Corporation. we realize that sometimes issues of having to do with maintenance and services rendered on board are of serious challenge, and therefore we are going to outsource all this through the private sector. We are going to partner with the private sector to provide these essential services so as to ensure and to guarantee sustainability, because it is not going to be business as usual. Government is determined to ensure that there is serious endurance and that the rehabilitation and the resuscitation of the railway system is really taken up very seriously, so that from now on there will never be any break. Mark you, the trains have been out of service from Lagos to Kano for more than 25 years, and now that they are back on track, we are taking steps to ensure that it is sustained for the benefit of the citizens and indeed the economy of this country.
Okay, does that mean that your ministry, since just as you said now, it's been out of service for 25 years? Is there any report as to what happened at that time? Why was it out for 25 years? Has your ministry identified these challenges with a view to stopping them from happening again?
Yes, we have identified the challenges. That is why we are going into partnership with the private sector, because we know that sometimes government is not a very good business manager. And therefore, because government is not a very good business manager, because experience has shown over the period, therefore you need to bring in the private sector to partner with you in order to make this very sustainable. It is in realization of this very important fact that we are developing all the strategies in order to bring in the private sector to carry on this very important exercise.
Does this strategy include Nigerian engineers or the students or the tertiary institutions, such that they can understudy, and we should be able to do this on our own in the future?
You know, when you partner with the private sector, there is a limit to which you can dictate to them how they go about their things, because when the private sector goes into business, is going to business, one, to render service, and secondly, to make profit. But on the part of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, we have our training schools. The training schools are going to be utilized. You know, one, to train the railway staff, either the current serving railway staff and those that will be recruited in the course of time.
I'm talking about when these contracts are actually awarded, not just to the private sector now. For instance, the CCEC companies.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. I mean, do they have any mandates from your ministry to ensure that indigenous engineers are also part and parcel of that construction from start to finish?
Of course, now the current government has made it even a policy that for any contract to be approved, the number of jobs that will be created in the process of the execution of this particular contract must be disclosed. And therefore, part of those to be employed to carry out the execution of this contract must be Nigerians. And therefore, all the rehabilitation exercise going on, and indeed the construction of the new lines, have the involvement and participation of Nigerians, Nigerian engineers, Nigerian artisans, and Nigerian laborers.
Okay, you know, when you talked about linking up with Chad and Niger, one wonders, what's the economic attraction? Because we would have thought that the plan was to link economic hub, not just within Nigeria, but across the West African coast. So what's the economic rationale behind that one?
Well, for sub-regional cooperation within the context of the ECOWAS agreements, we have a responsibility to link up to our neighboring countries. It is one thing for us to take our lines up to the border, and another for the neighboring countries to develop their own for this relationship to foster.
But it doesn't sound like it's going to be a good economic idea, because taxpayers' money will go into that. So if it doesn't benefit us economically, why should we do it?
Certainly there will be economic benefit.